The office was quiet as I leaned over my desk, studying the blueprints for Oak Ridge's new bridge. I was making small adjustments with my pen when suddenly my phone buzzed, surprising me. Glancing at the clock, 5:47 p.m., I wondered who would be calling so late on a Friday. "Hello," I answered, holding the phone between my ear and shoulder. A woman's urgent voice spoke. "Liam, you need to come home immediately. It's an emergency." Before I could reply, the call ended abruptly. I stared at my phone, feeling my heart race. It wasn't Natalie's voice. Who was she, and what emergency was she talking about? "Everything okay, Parker?" Dave, my coworker, called from across the office. "Not sure," I replied, already packing up. "Gotta head home. Some kind of emergency." Dave's brow furrowed. "Hope it's nothing serious. Let me know if you need anything." I nodded, barely hearing him as I rushed out. The drive home was a blur of worst-case scenarios. Was Natalie hurt? Had there been a break-in? As I pulled into our driveway, everything looked normal from the outside. Our quaint two-story home stood peacefully among the other well-manicured lawns of Oak Ridge. No ambulances, no police cars. Just the usual Friday evening quiet of our suburban neighborhood. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking slightly as I unlocked the front door. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with the familiar scent of Natalie's favorite lavender candles. Soft jazz played from the living room speakers. "Natalie?" I called out, confused. This didn't feel like an emergency. No response. I made my way further into the house, noticing two half-empty wine glasses on the coffee table. Had Natalie been entertaining someone? That's when I heard muffled voices coming from upstairs. My stomach dropped as I recognized Natalie's laugh, followed by a deeper, masculine chuckle. No, it couldn't be. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The plush carpet muffled my footsteps as I approached our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear Natalie's voice more clearly now. "But it feels so right," a man responded, his voice achingly familiar. My hand hovered over the doorknob, trembling. Did I really want to know what was on the other side? But I had to see. I had to know the truth. I pushed the door open, and my world shattered into a million pieces. Natalie, my wife of 10 years, was wrapped in the arms of our next-door neighbor, Jason Clark. They scrambled apart as I entered, but it was too late. The image of their naked bodies entwined on our bed was forever seared into my mind. "Liam!" Natalie shrieked, hastily grabbing a sheet to cover herself. "Oh God, Liam, let me explain." "Explain?" I shouted, my vision clouded with anger. "Explain how you're with our neighbor in our bed." Jason, that arrogant jerk, smirked as he grabbed his pants. "Come on, dude. These things happen. No need to make a scene." "These things happen?" I spluttered, unable to believe it. "You're in my house, in my bed, with my wife, and you're telling me not to make a scene." Natalie was crying now, clutching the sheet to her chest. "Liam, please, it's not what it looks like. Really." I laughed bitterly. "Because it looks like you're cheating on me with this piece of shit." Jason held up his hands, trying to placate me. "Look, Liam, we're all adults here. Why don't we just calm down and talk about this rationally?" "Rationally," I repeated, my voice dangerously low. "You want rational, Jason? Here's rational for you." I lunged at him, my fist connecting solidly with his jaw. The satisfying crunch of bone meeting bone did little to quell the inferno of betrayal burning inside me. Jason stumbled backward, crashing into our dresser. Photo frames and trinkets clattered to the floor, mementos of a life that no longer existed. "Liam, stop," Natalie cried, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. I grabbed Jason by the collar of his shirt, hauling him to his feet. "You piece of shit," I snarled, shoving him towards the door. "I'm going to kill you." "Liam, please," Natalie sobbed, clutching the sheet around her. "It was a mistake. We were drunk. It didn't mean anything." Her words only fueled my anger. I pulled Jason into the hallway, His feeble attempts to break free no match for my anger. How long? I demanded, slamming him against the wall. How long have you been with my wife? Jason glanced nervously at Natalie, who stood trembling nearby. It was just once, I swear. Liar, I yelled, my fist hitting his stomach. He doubled over, struggling to breathe. Stop it, Natalie screamed. You'll hurt him. Hurt him? I laughed bitterly. You're worried about me hurting him. What about what you've done to me, Natalie? I turned back to Jason, who tried to slip away towards the stairs. Oh no, you don't, I growled, grabbing him by the back of his shirt. You don't get to walk away from this. With a surge of anger, I shoved him forcefully. Jason tumbled down the stairs, landing in a heap at the bottom. Get out, I bellowed. Get out of my house and never come back. You home-wrecking bastard. Jason scrambled to his feet, clutching his ribs. He looked back at Natalie, who was sobbing uncontrollably. Nat, don't you dare speak to her. I snarled, descending the stairs. Get out before I really lose control. He didn't need to be told again. Jason bolted for the front door, leaving it wide open in his haste to escape. I turned back to Natalie, who had sunk to her knees at the top of the stairs. Liam, she whimpered, I'm so sorry. Please, can we talk about this? Talk? I laughed humorlessly. What is there to talk about, Natalie? I caught you in bed with our neighbor. Our neighbor. It was a mistake, she pleaded. I've had too much to drink and Jason. He's been going through a tough time with his divorce. We were just talking, and then you decided to fuck him in our bed. I finished for her. How nice of you, consoling the poor divorced guy by sleeping with him, I said. Natalie looked upset at my words. Liam, please, she said. I love you. We can fix this. Love me? I scoffed. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. Pack your things, Natalie. I want you out of this house. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What? Liam. This is my home too. We can't just throw away 10 years of marriage over one mistake. One mistake? I repeated, my voice dangerously low. Do you honestly expect me to believe this was the first time? How long has this been going on, Natalie? Weeks. Months. She shook her head vehemently. No, I swear, Liam, this was the only time. Please, you have to believe me. I stormed past her into our bedroom, the scene of the crime. The rumpled sheets and discarded clothes made me want to vomit. I yanked open the closet doors and began throwing her clothes into a suitcase. What are you doing? Natalie cried, rushing into the room. Packing your things, I replied coldly. I told you to get out. Liam, stop. She grabbed my arm, trying to halt my frenzied packing. We need to talk about this. We can go to counseling. Work through it. I shrugged her off roughly. There's nothing to work through, Natalie. You cheated. You broke our vows, shattered our trust. It's over. Tears streamed down her face as she watched me empty her drawers. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care, I spat. Go to your parents. Go to a hotel. Hell, go to Jason's for all I care. Just go away. I zipped up the suitcase and took it to the top of the stairs. In one quick move, I pushed it down, like Jason fell earlier. Natalie gasped. My things. You have 10 minutes to get dressed and leave, I said, my voice cold. Anything you don't take, I'll destroy. She looked at me, shocked and sad. Liam, please, don't do this. I made a big mistake, but I love you. We can fix this. For a moment, looking at her tear-stained face, I faltered. 10 years of memories flashed through my mind: our first date, our wedding day, lazy Sunday mornings spent in each other's arms. But then the image of her wrapped around Jason obliterated everything else. Love isn't enough, Natalie, I said quietly. Not anymore. Now get out. I turned my back on her and walked downstairs, leaving her to gather her things. I heard her moving around upstairs, soft sobs punctuating the silence. A few minutes later, She appeared at the bottom of the stairs, fully dressed with her suitcase in hand. Her eyes were red and puffy, her makeup smeared. Liam, she tried one last time. Please don't do this. Let's just talk. Goodbye, Natalie. I cut her off, opening the front door. She stared at me for a long moment, as if memorizing my face. Then, with a defeated slump of her shoulders, she walked out the door. As I closed it behind her, the finality of the action hit me like a physical blow. I leaned against the door, sliding down until I was sitting on the floor. And there, in the empty silence of what was once our happy home, I finally let the tears fall. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space where Natalie used to sleep. The house felt hollow, echoing with memories I couldn't escape. How had everything fallen apart so quickly? The doorbell's sharp ring cut through my brooding. I considered ignoring it, but it rang again, more insistent this time. Coming, I called, my voice hoarse from disuse. I opened the door to find a woman I'd never seen before. She looked about my age, with dark hair and eyes that showed both determination and a hint of coldness. Can I help you? I asked, showing my annoyance. Are you Liam Parker? She asked, sounding serious. I nodded cautiously. I need to talk to you alone, she said, looking past me into the house. Listen, I'm not really up for visitors right now. It's about your wife, she interrupted. And Jason Clark. My stomach clenched at the mention of their names. Who are you? Let me in, and I'll explain everything. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her enter. She walked straight to the living room, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Nice place, she commented, looking around. Though I imagine it doesn't feel so nice anymore, does it? Who are you? I repeated, crossing my arms. And what do you know about my wife and him? She turned to face me, her expression grim. I'm the one who called you. My name is Olivia. I'm Jason's ex-wife. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. You're what? Why would you? Call you? She finished for me. Because I thought you deserved to know the truth, just like I did. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly weak. You knew about them? Olivia nodded, sitting across from me. I've known for a while. Jason isn't as clever as he thinks he is. How long? I managed to ask, dreading the answer. From what I've gathered, it's been going on for about 6 months, she said, her voice softening slightly. I'm sorry, Liam. I understand how much this hurts, Olivia said sympathetically. I laughed bitterly. 6 months. And I didn't know. Men like Jason, they're good at hiding things, Olivia replied. But I have evidence. Proof of the affair. And more. She reached into her bag and took out a thick manila folder. Here, she said, handing it to me. Everything you need to know is in there. I took the folder with trembling hands. What is this? Emails, text messages, hotel receipts. Olivia listed off, and some interesting information about Jason's business practices. Let's just say he's not the upstanding citizen he pretends to be. I flipped through the pages, my vision blurring as I saw intimate exchanges between Natalie and Jason. Why are you showing me this? Olivia leaned forward, her eyes locked on mine. Because I think you and I want the same thing, Liam. Justice. I repeated, closing the folder. I couldn't bear to look at it anymore. They hurt us, Olivia said, her voice hard. They lied. They cheated. They destroyed our marriages. Don't you think they should pay for that? I hesitated. I don't know. I just want this pain to stop. Olivia stood up, smoothing her skirt. The pain won't stop until you take control, Liam. Trust me, I've been where you are. But now I'm going to make sure Jason gets exactly what he deserves. And what about Natalie? I asked, surprising myself with the bitterness in my voice. That's up to you, Olivia said, heading for the door. But if you decide you want to do something about it, give me a call. My number's in the file. She paused at the doorway, looking back at me. Think about it, Liam. They took everything from us. Don't you think it's time we returned the favor?" With that, she was gone, leaving me alone with the damning folder and a head full of vengeful thoughts. The days after Olivia came by were a blur. I called in sick to work, ignoring messages from worried colleagues and friends. How could I face them, knowing my life was shattered? I spent hours going through Olivia's folder. Every email, every affectionate message between Natalie and Jason felt like a stab in my heart. But it was the details about Jason's business that grabbed my attention. On the 5th day of staying home alone, my phone rang. Olivia's number showed up on the screen. "Hello?" I croaked, my voice hoarse from not using it. "Liam," Olivia's crisp voice came through. "I was beginning to think you disappeared." "Just processing," I muttered. "And have you made a decision?" I hesitated, then steeled myself. "What did you have in mind?" I could almost hear her smile through the phone. "I thought you'd never ask. Can you meet me at the cafe on 5th and Main in an hour?" An hour later, I found myself sitting across from Olivia in a quiet corner of the cafe. She pushed a steaming cup of coffee towards me. "You look like you need this," she said, not unkindly. I took a sip, grimacing at the bitter taste. "Thanks. So, what's this plan of yours?" Olivia leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "We start with Jason. He's always been ambitious, always reaching for that next big promotion. But he's also careless." "The unethical business practices," I said, remembering the documents. She nodded. "Exactly. He's been cooking the books, inflating his success to impress the higher-ups. All we need to do is make sure the right people see the evidence." "And how do we do that?" I asked, a part of me still hesitant. "Anonymous tip," Olivia said with a shrug. "I've already drafted an email. We just need to send it from an untraceable account." I frowned. "Isn't that illegal?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "The email? No. We're just concerned citizens reporting potential fraud. What Jason's been doing, that's what's illegal." I mulled it over. The anger I'd been holding back began to bubble up. "And what about Natalie?" I asked Olivia. "That's where you come in," Olivia replied. "You know her business, her clients. A few strategic rumors could cause a lot of trouble." "Rumors?" I repeated, feeling sick to my stomach. "I'm not sure if I can." "Can what?" Olivia interrupted sharply, her voice cutting through the air. "Tell the truth. Because that's all it would be, Liam. The truth about what she did, who she really is." I fell silent, staring into my coffee. The image of Natalie and Jason together flashed through my mind, igniting a fresh wave of pain and anger. "They deserve this," Olivia said softly, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "They hurt us, Liam. They broke our trust, our hearts. Don't they deserve to feel even a fraction of that pain?" I looked up, meeting her gaze. In her eyes, I saw the same hurt, the same betrayal I felt, and something else, a determination that I envied. "Okay," I said finally. "I'm in. What do we do first?" Olivia smiled, a cold, satisfied expression that sent a shiver down my spine. "First, we take down Jason. Then, we'll deal with your faithless wife." As we bent our heads together, plotting our revenge, a part of me wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. But the larger part, the part consumed by pain and betrayal, didn't care. They had destroyed our lives. Now it was time to return the favor. The plan unfolded with a precision that should have scared me. But I was too consumed by a cold, righteous anger to feel fear. 2 weeks after our meeting in the cafe, Olivia called me. "It's done," she said without preamble. "The email was sent this morning. Now we wait." We didn't have to wait long. The next day, my phone buzzed with a text from Dave, my coworker. "Hey man, you hear about Jason Clark? It doesn't look good." I stared at the message, feeling a mix of satisfaction and unease in my stomach. "Thanks for telling me," I texted back, trying to sound casual. That evening, Olivia arrived at my door with a bottle of champagne in hand. "We did it," she said, her eyes shining with triumph. "Jason's been fired." They're even talking about a criminal investigation. I let her in and accepted the glass she poured for me. How did you find out all this? I asked. She smirked. I have my sources. Come on, Liam. Let's celebrate. As we clinked glasses, I couldn't help but question. Do you think this is going too far? Olivia's expression hardened. Too far? Was it too far when they sneaked around behind our backs? When they made fools of us in our own homes? Her words stung, and I flinched, the pain resurfacing. I quickly downed my champagne. To justice, she echoed, refilling our glasses. Over the next few weeks, I watched from afar as Jason's life unraveled. Word of his unethical practices spread quickly in our tight-knit community. Former colleagues crossed the street to avoid him. His country club membership was revoked. Time for phase 2, Olivia said one evening as we sat in my living room, now our de facto planning headquarters. I nodded, steeling myself. Natalie. Exactly, Olivia said, her smile sharp. You said her business relies on her reputation, right? I nodded again, remembering how proud Natalie had been of her event planning company. How many late nights had she spent building it up, networking, cultivating clients, and all the while she'd been Liam. Olivia's voice cut through my thoughts. Are you with me? Yeah, I said, shaking off the memories. What's the plan? It's simple, she said, leaning forward. We start spreading the word. Nothing too obvious, just concerns, worries about her professionalism, her trustworthiness. I frowned. And how do we do that without it being traced back to us? Olivia's smile widened. Leave that to me. I've got a few friends who owe me favors. They'll be more than happy to express their reservations about using Natalie's services. The plan was set in motion the next day. I watched from the sidelines as whispers began to circulate. Natalie's phone stopped ringing as often. Her schedule, once full of events, started to clear up. One evening, I bumped into Sarah, who's one of Natalie's closest friends, as I was leaving the grocery store. She seemed uneasy when she saw me. Oh, Liam, she said, adjusting her shopping bags. How are you? I'm getting by, I replied, forcing a sad smile. And you? How's Natalie doing? Sarah looked increasingly uncomfortable. She's had better days. Her business is struggling a bit. I feigned surprise. Really? That's too bad. Any idea why? Sarah hesitated, then leaned in closer. Well, between you and me, there are some rumors going around. About her and, well, people are worried about hiring someone with that kind of reputation. I nodded solemnly, fighting to keep the satisfaction off my face. That's a shame. Natalie worked so hard on that business. She did, Sarah agreed, then glanced at her watch. Oh, I should go. Take care, Liam. As she hurried away, I allowed myself a small smile. The plan was working perfectly. The final blow came when I filed for divorce. My lawyer, guided by some anonymous tips, courtesy of Olivia, fought tooth and nail to ensure Natalie received the bare minimum settlement. It's done. I told Olivia over the phone after the final hearing. The divorce is finalized. How do you feel? She asked. I paused, considering. The anger that had driven me for months felt muted. In its place was a hollow emptiness I couldn't quite name. I don't know, I admitted. I thought I'd feel better. Olivia's voice softened. It takes time, Liam. But we did it. We got what we deserved. As I hung up the phone, I wondered if this hollow feeling was what justice was supposed to feel like. And if so, why didn't it feel more satisfying? 6 months had passed since the divorce was finalized. I stood in the middle of what used to be our living room, surrounded by bare walls and empty spaces. The house that once held so many memories now felt empty and lifeless. The realtor, Miss Johnson, interrupted my thoughts. Mr. Parker, are you ready to do the final walkthrough? I turned to her, forcing a smile. Of course, Miss Johnson. Let's get this over with. As we moved from room to room, Miss Johnson chatted cheerfully. You know, this property will sell quickly. It's in a great neighborhood, and the market is hot right now. That's good to hear, I replied, though I wasn't really listening. I just wanted to be done with this place and all the painful memories it held. When we reached the master bedroom, I hesitated at the doorway. This room, where I had discovered Natalie's betrayal, still held a power over me. Mr. Parker. Miss Johnson's voice held a note of concern. Is everything all right? I shook my head, clearing the memories. Yes, sorry, just remembering. She nodded sympathetically. Divorces are never easy. Selling the house is a big step toward moving forward. As we walked down the stairs, my phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. How's it going? Want to grab a drink later? I quickly replied. Just finishing up with a realtor. Drinks sound good. The usual place at 8? Her swift response came. See you there. Miss Johnson's voice brought me back to the present. Well, Mr. Parker, I think we're all set here. I'll submit the listing today, and we should start getting offers soon. I nodded, handing her the keys. Thank you for your help, Miss Johnson. I appreciate your discretion in this matter. She smiled reassuringly. Of course. That's part of my job. Good luck with everything, Mr. Parker. As I walked out of the house for the last time, I couldn't help but wonder about Natalie and Jason. Where were they now? How had their lives turned out after the storm we'd unleashed? I pushed the thoughts aside. It didn't matter anymore. I had won, hadn't I? So why did victory feel so empty? Later that evening, I sat across from Olivia in our usual dimly lit bar. She raised her glass in a mock toast. To the end of an era, she said, her voice tinged with bitter amusement. I clinked my glass against hers, downing the whiskey in one gulp. Yeah, something like that. Olivia studied my face. You don't seem as happy as I thought you'd be. Having second thoughts, I shook my head. No, not really. It's just, I thought I'd feel different, you know? More satisfied, I guess, I said. Olivia leaned back, swirling her drink. I understand. Revenge never feels as good as we think it will. Have you heard anything? I asked, unable to stop myself. About Jason or Natalie? Olivia's eyes glinted with triumph and something darker. Oh, I've heard plenty. Want the details? I hesitated, then nodded. Might as well know what all our efforts accomplished. Leaning forward, Olivia lowered her voice. Well, your ex-wife is barely getting by. Last I heard, she's living in a small apartment on the edge of town. Can you believe it? Natalie Parker, reduced to shopping at discount stores and clipping coupons. The image of Natalie struggling and alone should have brought me satisfaction. Instead, I felt a twinge of something. Regret. Guilt. I pushed it aside. And Jason? I prompted. Olivia's smile turned cruel. Oh, he's hit rock bottom, working odd jobs for cash, when he can get them. But mostly, he spends his days at the bottom of a bottle. Cheap whiskey, from what I hear. How the mighty have fallen, right? I nodded, trying to muster up the appropriate enthusiasm. Right, we really did a number on them, didn't we? We sure did, Olivia agreed, raising her glass again. They'll never recover from this. We made sure of that. As we continued drinking, I found myself wondering if this was really what I had wanted. Had destroying their lives truly been worth it? You know, Olivia said, interrupting my thoughts. I ran into Natalie the other day. My head snapped up. You what? Where? She shrugged. At the grocery store. God, Liam, you should have seen her. She looked broken. Nothing like the woman who used to turn heads wherever she went. Did she say anything? I asked, trying to hide my concern. Olivia's eyes narrowed a bit. She asked about you, actually. She wanted to know if you were okay. A lump formed in my throat. And what did you tell her? I told her you were doing well, Olivia replied, her tone becoming stern. I said you were thriving without her. That's what you wanted, right? I nodded mechanically. Yeah, of course. That's good. As the night wore on and the drinks kept flowing, I couldn't shake the image of Natalie, alone and struggling. Had our revenge gone too far? And more importantly, had it given me the closure I so desperately sought? The next morning, I woke with a pounding headache and a sense of unease that wouldn't go away. As I packed the last of my belongings into boxes, my phone rang. It was Dave from work. Liam, my man, how's the move going? I sighed, rubbing my temples. It's going, Dave. Should be out of here by this afternoon. Listen, Dave said, his voice turning serious. I know you're set on leaving, but are you sure about this? Moving to a whole new city. Starting over? It's a big step. I paused, considering his words. I know it is, but I can't stay here, Dave. Too many memories, too much history. Dave was quiet for a moment. I get it, I do. Just don't be a stranger, all right? You've got friends here, people who care about you. His words hit me harder than I expected. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. I'll keep in touch, I promise. After hanging up, I stood in the empty living room, surrounded by boxes. This was it, the final step in leaving my old life behind. The doorbell rang, startling me. Who could that be? I opened the door to find Sarah, Natalie's old friend, standing there looking uncomfortable. Sarah, what are you doing here? She shifted nervously. I heard you were moving today. I wanted to talk to you before you left. Cautiously, I moved aside to let her in. All right. What's on your mind? Sarah took a deep breath. It's about Natalie. I felt my jaw tighten. Sarah, I really don't want to. Please, Liam, she interrupted. Just hear me out. I know what Natalie did was awful, unforgivable even. But the rumors, the way everyone turned on her, it's destroying her. I crossed my arms, trying to maintain a neutral expression. That's not my problem anymore. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I know it's not, but Liam, this isn't you. The man I knew, the man Natalie married. He wouldn't want to see anyone suffer like this, no matter what they'd done. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. Was she right? Had I become someone I didn't recognize in my quest for revenge? What do you want from me, Sarah? I asked, my voice hoarse. She reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of paper. This is Natalie's new address. I'm not asking you to forgive her or take her back. Just talk to her. See what your revenge has really accomplished. I took the paper, staring at the unfamiliar address. I'll think about it. After Sarah left, I sat among my boxes, turning the piece of paper over in my hands. Did I really want to see Natalie? To confront the aftermath of what I'd done? Before I could talk myself out of it, I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. Natalie's new apartment was in a run-down part of town I barely recognized. I hesitated outside her door, my hand raised to knock. Was I making a mistake? Finally, I rapped on the door. There was a shuffling sound inside, and then the door opened. The woman standing before me was almost unrecognizable as my ex-wife. Natalie's once vibrant hair hung limp around her face, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. She spoke barely above a whisper. What are you doing here? I swallowed hard. I'm not sure. Can I come in? She moved aside, allowing me into a small, minimally furnished apartment. The difference from our old home was striking and painful. I heard you were moving, Natalie said softly, standing hesitantly, starting anew in a new city. I nodded, unable to look her in the eyes. Yeah, that's the plan. An awkward silence fell between us. Finally, Natalie spoke again, her voice trembling. Liam, I know it doesn't change anything, but I am so sorry. What I did, there's no excuse. I destroyed everything we had, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I looked at her then, really looked at her. The woman I had loved for so long, now brought low by her mistakes and my vengeance. And suddenly, The hollowness I'd been feeling made sense. I'm sorry too, I said quietly. Natalie's eyes widened in surprise. You're sorry? For what? I sank onto her worn couch, the weight of the past months crashing down on me. For letting my pain turn me into someone I don't recognize. For going too far in my need for revenge. Tears spilled down Natalie's cheeks. You had every right to be angry, to hate me. Maybe, I interrupted. But I didn't have the right to destroy your life. Or Jason's. We sat in silence for a while, the air heavy with regret and unspoken words. Finally, I stood. I should go. My moving truck will be here soon. Natalie nodded, wiping her eyes. Of course. Liam, thank you for coming. For giving me a chance to apologize in person. As I reached the door, I turned back to her. Natalie, I hope you can rebuild your life and find happiness again, I said to her. A sad smile appeared on her face. I hope the same for you, Liam. You deserve it. Leaving her apartment, I felt a strange mix of emotions. The anger and bitterness that had driven me for so long seemed to be easing. In their place was a tentative feeling, not quite forgiveness, but maybe the start of acceptance. Driving back to my empty house, I realized that the true new beginning wasn't just about moving to a new city or starting a new job. It was about releasing the past and the pain that had taken over me. I picked up my phone and called someone. Dave? Yeah, it's me. About that job offer, is it still available? Maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to move forward without escaping. To create a life not defined by betrayal and revenge, but by who I truly wanted to become. After I ended the call, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Second story. Relationship struggles with my long-term girlfriend. I'm looking for some advice about my current relationship. My girlfriend and I are both 33, and we've been dating for 1 year and 6 months. Back in high school, we dated for about 3.5 years. Fast forward 14 years, and we reconnected as adults. However, our relationship has been rocky. About 1 month into our new relationship, a little over a year ago, I found out she was unfaithful during our high school days, cheating on me with multiple guys, including her brother's best friend, who was up until a few months ago renting a room at her parents' house. She initially tried to get us to hang out, hoping I had forgotten about it. When I confronted her and asked her to tell her parents the truth, she hesitated but ultimately did so. Her family's initial reaction was confusion, and they hoped we could all get along. I set boundaries and told her that for us to work, the guy needed to move out. My girlfriend talked to her family again, and while they seemed to understand, they still let him live there for 6 months after everything was revealed. They would casually mention him in conversations with me, which led to me avoiding them for the past year. I told my girlfriend that her family didn't seem to want me around, so I stopped visiting to avoid being an inconvenience. This has caused a lot of turmoil in our relationship, and we're now at a point where we're unsure if we should continue. We've had many fights, and my insecurities are all over the place. I don't feel like myself and just want to be chosen first for once. I've said some things I regret and have been cruel at times. What can I say to her to convince her to give us a real chance? Or is there truly no recovering from this? Any advice would be greatly appreciated.